Welcome to the Leadership Lab by The Colourworks, where we put real conversations with real people under the microscope. Brought to you by The Colourworks, specialists in helping people, teams and organisations work better together.
Hello and welcome back to the Leadership Lab podcast by The Colourworks. We're so excited to have you back for our second episode. I'm one of the co-hosts. I'm Lucy.
And hi, I'm Luke from the Colourworks team, one of the co-hosts too. It's great to be back, Lucy, isn't it?
It is great to be back.
We survived our first episode. And hopefully some people have come back to listen to the second one. We've had some lovely feedback and some lovely comments from our first episode with Johnny Holden. So if you haven't listened to that so far, then we highly recommend you go back and have a listen to that now.
It was a great conversation and we're really excited for today. And we'd like to welcome Nic Scott. Nic, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. You guys aren't just surviving, by the way, you're thriving. Be clear about that. I think you're doing a fabulous job and I'm absolutely thrilled and honoured to be here. And I'm really excited actually to be challenged and have a great conversation with you both today.
Amazing. Nic, we've not met before, so I'm really excited. Are you happy to tell us a bit about your journey and what's led you to this point?
Yeah, absolutely. So I won't go all the way back like to the beginning, but I am someone who, I guess, professionally, I've always had a really strong work ethic. I've worked from the age of like 50. Well, I had a paper round actually at like 11 or 12, but I've worked properly since the age of 15. So I've always worked, and it's relevant because I think I've got 3 kids. I've got a young family, which is a significant factor that contributes to why I am where I am today. So I've always been someone that wants to work and contribute in that way. So I went back to work after having my kids quickly-ish, I would say. And that's when everything sort of started to shift, really, I think, in my career. I did the whole like classic stuff and like went to uni, etc. But after uni, I got a job working in the wine industry, which I absolutely love. So it's interesting because it's one of the things that actually starts conversations when you're like sitting there, oh, what do you do? And I used to be able to say, I work in the wine trade. And that always gets the conversation going.
Do you have quite a good knowledge of different wines? And
yeah, I've got a level 4 diploma in wine tasting.
Right. And actually know what you're talking about. You don't just say, it's kind of smoky.
I'm meant to know. And that is not as fun as it sounds, like studying wine to that level. But I'm also a certified wine educator, so I can teach people up to level 3 through their qualifications.
Should we just going to jump in? Should we scrap this podcast conversation and just talk about wine for an hour? No.
Any questions you've got about wine, something you want to match with your dinner at the weekend, like whatever it is, just let me know.
Also, for me, like levels sound like how tipsy are you? I'm level 3 tipsy right now, but I'm assuming that's not really what that's about.
Well, level 4, it kind of translates in the whole world of normal qualifications. Level 4, I think level 3 is about like A level. Level 4 is about like a couple of years, like half a degree vibes. The only one above level 4 is Master of Wine. So that's the one I just couldn't do. I don't have that in me.
I think I'm a master of wine, but by experience, but not by knowledge.
Exactly. And that's all that counts, Luke. Your experience and your preferences. That is what I always use that. I was very, very good at selling wine because I was really good at asking customers the right questions to find out what it was that wine kind of meant to them and what they needed that wine for, where it was fitting in their life. And that could just be chugging it back on a Friday because I've had a stressful week. Or it can be my daughter's getting married and I want to bring the great wine to the table. So it's loads of that kind of questions. And I loved customers. I love customers. I love people in that sense. I was a bit mad. But I worked my way up the ranks in that company, all the way up to be a regional manager, basically, and you have so much autonomy. So that's where I really cut my teeth in a leadership space, and it was a really challenging environment. It was retail, it was multi-site management. I had 20 direct reports that I, was immediately responsible for, and then my whole region had like 80 to 100 people working in it, depending on the seasons. And I was responsible for the performance of that whole like part of the business, and it was a very high-profile part of the business because it was very visible. It was the one nearest head office. So a lot of the senior leaders lived in my region and were customers in my region. So no pressure. But multi-site management meant you had to be really good at managing people that you couldn't see. I couldn't see them every day.
Is it quite a male-dominated industry or not? Was it quite?
Yeah, it definitely was, because this is a while ago now for me. But yes, it definitely was. I think it might still be. The leadership roles were definitely very male dominated. I was the first regional manager to go on maternity leave in that business. So I was the first one to have a baby basically in that role. So it was a really challenging environment for me. And there's other steps to kind of where I am now. But I think there's a lot that was very formative for me, that time there, and has really, as I reflect more on it every day almost, I realise there's so many more lessons that I've taken from that time and have really led to and crafted kind of where I am now in my journey. Yeah, I love leading. That's just who I am. Like I fill that space, I fill that gap, I step into it. And whenever there's a gap, I'm like, right, in we go. And I have to sometimes switch that off, if I'm honest. But I'm sure that might come up in conversation today.
So in that role, was that more operational then, Nick? Is that where you started to get the passion for leadership, learning and development,
Yeah.
performance, coaching?
The L&D and coaching vibe was always there, because to get up to RM, like regional manager, I did have to then manage stores as well. So I had my own little team. Like, we were small teams. Like, my biggest team was like 7 people when I managed a store. But you are responsible for the learning and development and everything of your team. And then as a regional manager, you were also responsible for all the hiring and firing within your region. So you needed to know where the talented trainees were, because it's retail. It could be quite high turnover of staff at times. And we ran a tight ship, it was very lean. So if someone's leaving, you need to backfill those positions incredibly quickly. So I needed to know where my future managers were and my future assistant managers were at all times. And some of them weren't even in my region, right? Because the borders were close, you pinched people from other regions, or people would pinch from your region. And it was very irritating at the time, but I took great pride in the fact that a lot of other regional managers stole my stuff and took them into their region, because I developed people, right? I focused on their development, and that was whether I was just a manager of a small team, but then when I was leading at that level. So that was great. And then I've always been really passionate about my own development. I think that's where the wine tasting qualifications come in, because not everybody does them, and it is a lot of dedication. Like, I took my revision, on holiday with me a lot, and you have to try and fit it in around loads of stuff. But I've always been that person that if there's a qualification open to me to do it, then I take it and I run with it.
You say you were revising on holiday. Is this like practical wine tasting?
No, there's so much theory. Not of practical. Yeah, no, I remember sitting around a swimming pool reading notes on sherry, I think, and port. And yeah, like fortified wines exam it would have been. It's not as fun as it sounds, I promise you. It was not as fun as it sounds. And then, yeah, I basically then had a bit of a shift, but within the same company once I started having babies. So I had my son, who's now 11. And so this is a while ago now. And like I say, I was the first regional manager to have a baby. So then I was the first one to come back and request flexible working, which didn't go down like a lead balloon. It kind of wasn't right for that role. And I think they made the right decision that, like, I can't do that role part-time. You're in or you're out. It's a lot of traveling and stuff. So it wasn't for me once I had a baby at home. But I was really fortunate. They created a new role. So that was the first time that they then created a learning and development manager role. They had a training manager role before that, which is a role I actually did temporarily, which is teaching the wine tasting qualifications and running induction and onboarding. More operational stuff. But as RMs, we helped with the leadership development sessions. So I had the combination of all of those skills. And then they were like, would you come and be our new L&D manager and give that a go? And I was like, sounds right up my street. So I did that role part-time. I loved it so much. I quite quickly asked, can I work more hours actually? And then ended up upping my hours because I was loving that role. I learned so much. And did loads of stuff there. And it was a kind of organisation where L&D was lean. You didn't really have a budget. And we changed strategy quite a lot because retail has to keep moving. So we did so many strategies, and we start them and you rip it up and start again. And like from scratch, like building L&D basically from scratch, which I loved doing. And then had my second baby, which was 2 babies at once. I had twins basically about 3-4 years later. And then I went back to a different role again, which was as a leadership coach. So then it was just every time it was just building on my skill set and taking it to another level. But the time came, I'd been there for 12 years. The time came for me to, fortunately, I managed to take voluntary redundancy, and I used some of that money to pay for my coaching qualification, because by then I'd got a real bug for that. And Luke, I know you know Hayden Bratt very well. Hayden came in and ran a session for us actually back in the day and talked to us about coaching and coaching skills. And I caught the bug from that minute on, really, and realized that coaching was my style of leadership. I really struggled when I was a regional manager. I found it really, really hard. And I felt like a fish out of water. Most of them were dudes, and I don't think I didn't lead like they led. It was weird. It was Insights Discovery. I had an Insights Discovery day, and my profile was really different to everyone else's in the room. I came out very yellow.
What's your highest colour? Oh, you came out high yellow.
No surprises to anybody, but I came out very yellow. You don't need to have yellow nails and everything. You don't need to know me for more than 5 minutes to know that I'm a sunshine yellow person, I think. And they were mainly red energy. So I felt very opposite and thought that I was bad at my job because of it. Whereas I know now that that's not the story. And I think that has led me to where I am today, and why I'm so passionate about then, I have my own business now. And that's a lot to do with juggling life with 3 small kids and having that flexibility and freedom. But it's also a lot about wanting to spread the impact that I want to have in the world of work and empower managers, leaders to realize that there's no one set way to be a leader. There are loads of different ways to do it. And I'm then mega passionate about how I've used coaching skills throughout my career to date. And for me, it's just the absolute linchpin for kind of unlocking great performance. And all the businesses I've now worked with, the more people I work with, the more I can see that the coaching skills is that like missing piece of the puzzle. So Seeds Coaching, that's who I am. And yeah, I'm loving it.
What, do you mind me asking, looking back at some of maybe your earlier roles in leadership, you've mentioned Insights, and how Insights Discovery helped you understand yourself and how you then understood other people. But do you think you would do anything differently if you had your time again?
100%. Oh my God, 100%. I think about this all the time, Luke. When I was first struggling, I just didn't have the confidence to then like forge my own leadership identity. I was a bit of a chameleon, if anything, and I felt like, I have to try and be more red to fit in around here, right? As that the Insights language is really helpful here. So I remember like making decisions as a leader that I still regret to this day, where I remember one of my team wanted to go on some amazing adventure, like an extra long holiday, and we had a really strict policy about how long you could go on holiday. And I consulted with my colleagues, and everyone is like, no, these are the rules and this is it. You can't have a manager out for this long and blah, blah, blah. And so I said, I'm sorry, I can't authorize your holiday. And I'm like, I really should have authorized that holiday, because he's a human being and he deserved to go on a great trip, once in a lifetime trip, And it's little things like that where I didn't have the confidence or courage to make decisions in a way that aligned with my values at that time. I think kind of morphed myself.
The viewers and listeners who aren't so familiar with Insight, so high red is this sort of very like extroverted but very task focused, get it done, which is really, really helpful in the workplace. Yeah. But I do see this as well with teams that I work with, where if there is a really dominant culture of high red energy, and they may not even be aware of that, there's a real sense from other people that they have to fit in, that they're not the correct kind of shape or model for that team, and actually they need to conform. And what's amazing about Insights, and we love Insights, I love Insights, is being able to say, like, look at your team dynamic, and actually you've got these really important people who sit at different places on the wheel. They might be high green or high yellow, and what they bring, and are you allowing them to be them in your team dynamic? And then you see these light bulb moments going off in the team, thinking we're going to be a better team if we let them be who they are. So I think that's so interesting. And you've experienced that firsthand, going into this culture and thinking I'm wrong because everyone else looks different from me and I need to change.
And I think
Yeah,
that aligns with what we see in the world of leadership, right? I am massively about inclusion. I'm a bit of a feminist at heart, and I'm really passionate about supporting anybody in the workplace. But it can be harder, I think, for women sometimes. I was definitely in a male-dominated environment. People assume that I was the trainee when I was the store manager, and it's just little things like that that you fight against. So yeah, part of my little mission is to kind of make that easier for as many people as possible, and I think leadership really aligns with that.
and we all know, don't we, from our experiences as trainers, facilitators, consultants, that good teams and good organizations are the organizations that really value difference and diversity, and that can be
100%.
diversity in thought. It's not always the protected characteristics. It can just be,
No.
having an understanding that it's good to have a balance of color energies. It's good to have a balance of age. It's good to have a balance of different culture. I myself have worked in a sector which was heavily female orientated,
Yeah.
and the stereotypes around that. So we all know that there's like the real art to organizational like design and organizational like team performance is diversity. That's well known now, isn't it?
Is often it's about awareness, that you come in and say, oh, do you know that your team looks like this? Oh, they just, because it's every day, they're in the weeds, they're got to get stuff
Yes.
done. I think sometimes it's awareness that's lacking, perhaps.
Awesome. Look, so we could probably, like I always like finding out more about our guests. And Nic, me and you have known each other for years. I'm really excited
Yeah.
that we actually get to meet in person in a couple of weeks' time. All right.
Where are you meeting?
Yeah, is there any wine at lunch, Luke? Do you
Yeah.
want me to bring some wine for lunch?
See what I can sort. But obviously this is the Leadership Lab, and the whole
Yep.
premise of our show is that we put, a hypothesis under the microscope. As you will have heard from our introductions, it's real people, real conversations under the microscope. So we're going to go into the experiment stage now, where we're going to put your hypothesis under the microscope, and then myself and Lucy will do our best to challenge your thinking, ask you some questions, and really dig deeper. For the listeners then, introduce us to your hypothesis.
Fab. I'm going to try and not. It is written down in front of me. I want to be really clear because it's a bit long, but I don't want it. I'm going to try and make it not sound read and forced, because I promise you it's been thought about. It's just hard to articulate these things in a punchy way. So here's my hypothesis. In a world where knowledge is everywhere and answers, let's be honest now, are the easiest they've ever been to find, leaders who create the most value, in my opinion, aren't the ones with the best answers. They're the ones who ask the best questions.
Oh,
End of.
and pause.
Dramatic pause.
Before we go deeper, you're listening to the Leadership Lab by The Colourworks, helping people, teams, and organisations work better together through greater self-awareness and stronger relationships.
Having the opportunity to hypothesize about something. And I have to say, the clarity around this, I firmly believe this, like to the core of my being. And the more I think about it, the more I believe it. But I'm so excited to be challenged on it today and further my thinking, because it's actually quite a new thing. I'd say the last month or two, I've really gained clarity on this and crystallize this, and it's part of a bit of a shift in direction for me in my business as well. Like this is what I'm meant to be doing, is focusing on this. And I've kind of feel like I've always had a strong connection to my purpose and my values, but I actually feel like I've properly galvanized behind something like this. So the timing of this is perfect for me to chat this through today.
Okay, so I'd love to ask you about questions. So that's such an interesting thing, and I feel like questions are so broad, because I could ask you a question over email, or I could ask you a question in person. I could ask you a question in an aggressive kind of way, but with the same words, and how I come across is going to be so different. So can you tell us a bit more about the kind of questioning and what's behind that and what you mean by that?
Yeah, I love that. So there are the normal everyday questions, and I really love how they can show us our different communication styles and preferences. I do that all the time when I'm doing leadership sessions and facilitating sessions, and helping people understand that we all have different preferences and communication styles. Because you can ask those questions, can't you? Like, how are you? Or little questions like we think about when we're communicating, and someone who wants to be more direct and straight to the point, and then there's someone who's sunshine yellow like me who will go, "How was your weekend? Oh, great. Oh, blah," and have all those lovely little fluffy questions. What I'm talking about as well here are those kind of open questions when we are in what it doesn't always have to be serious thinking territory. You can use a coaching question quite easily in the flow of a conversation. I just think that a lot of us, myself included, I'm 100% guilty of this from time to time. We don't stop long enough in a conversation to think about and stay curious for just that little bit longer. And for me, that's what it's all about. So yes, we can teach people the type of questions that we think they could use. And open questions is the standard one in the world of coaching. So a question that invites conversation. But I know all those question stems and I use them a lot. But you ask an 11-year-old and you think you're asking them a nice open question, like, how was your day today? And that in theory is an open question. And he just says, good. I'm like, okay, that didn't quite get the long, in-depth answer that an open question should get me. So there are kind of some rules and some tips and tricks around the types of questions we want to ask. But they don't always get you the big answers that you're fishing for. So there's different types of questions and ways to ask them, and tone is absolutely essential.
So if I've heard you right, Nic, what I'm hearing, and again, feel free to reject what I'm about to say, is there something along that what you're trying to say is like leaders need to stop trying to be the expert? Is that
100%, 100%. Who needs to know the answers anymore, right? I know everyone's going to probably come on this podcast and mention AI at some point, and I have a very much a love-hate relationship with it. And I do love it to an extent, but it's one of those things about question engineering, right? We all are thinking about they're called prompts, aren't they, in AI? But it is questions, and we're asking it questions and answers, whether they're accurate or not. That's a big question that we won't open that can of worms today about AI. But answers are at our fingertips, easier than ever, and most organisations are trying to integrate some form of AI that helps your kind of operational part of your role maybe feel a bit easier. Equally, leaders aren't, I think a lot of leaders, especially I work with quite a lot of emerging leaders, like new leaders. I've worked with senior and execs and stuff as well, and everyone's got something to learn. But I love working with those leaders who are on the cusp of a leadership position, or they've just been given a leadership position. And you often see them struggle because they think that I did this, right? They've been promoted and they think they need to know everything. When I was promoted to regional manager, I was then in charge of people who had been my manager in the past. So I absolutely felt so much pressure to try and prove to them that I was worthy of that position that I'd been given and they hadn't. And it's that element of that was really difficult and really challenging. And for me, the coaching skills unlocked that.
So if I was an emerging leader and I really wanted to not look like an idiot, but use this kind of idea that you're
you
talking
don't?
about. No, thanks, Luke.
You never
But in
would.
terms of what you were saying, because there is that thing, no question's a stupid question, but we all kind of have that fear that actually I could ask something that does make me look like an idiot. But are there any, would there be an example of a question or some kind of help that you could give me as an emerging leader, how to ask good questions but not feel like an idiot?
Yeah, I will caveat questions. So it's not always just when we're doing you learn pure coaching skills, and this is where some of these sessions go awry actually when people are teaching coaching skills in the workplace. We focus too much on pure coaching skills, and it's not helpful because in the flow of work they need to be managed. There's still some element of it. It's not perfect. Those questions are not perfect. I would use a phrase like, okay, great, thanks for bringing that challenge to me. I think I've got a potential solution, but I'm really curious about what do you think we should do next? What do you think we should try? So you're not just going, well, I don't know, what do you think? And then you look like the fool. I would go, okay, I think I've got an idea here, but I just want to check. Tell me what you think we should do, and let's see. Then I'll share mine, and then we'll see where we end up. It depends on your relationship. It depends on the challenge. Sometimes you have people, they know the answer. This was my biggest challenge, one of the biggest learnings I ever had in my RM role. And I had a particular manager who just used to ring me every day. Have you heard of the Cartman drama triangle? Like where they were the victim and wanted me to rescue them basically every day. And they would just ring me with like these questions, and I'm like, I knew that they knew the answers. They were just coming back to me so they didn't have to take responsibility or accountability for anything they were doing themselves and default to me and use me as their safety net. And I was like, you can't run your store that way. You need to be empowered to do this when I'm not there, because I'm not there very often. So I used to then just do the classic, like, well, I had a relationship with them, right? Just, well, you don't need to ask me this. Like, you know the answer. What do you think you need to do? It was just depends on the relationship you've got and the dynamic.
Sorry, Dick,
go on.
do you want to go?
I was just going to say.
Sorry,
Go on,
you go.
Go on, you go. No,
so
you
many
go, Lucy.
questions.
I'm going to go. So really interesting what you were just saying. Do you think sometimes it is really there's a basis of trust which is needed? Because when I haven't had trust in a working relationship and someone says to me, so how do you think that went? I'm like, oh, that's not a question. That's couching like, I'm really disappointed with your performance. Like, I hate that. And I've almost you just lose all confidence in that moment. How much do you think trust plays a part?
This is such a good challenge. I mean, I was thinking about how you guys might challenge me today. I was like, that is it. Coaching, again, is a mistake people can make when they're delivering this training and support with these skills. There's a time and a place, and it's not all the time. Like, I'm a massive advocate for coaching skills, but there are times when actually you need your leader to be decisive. You need your leader just to tell you what to do. You do need direction and clarity, not I don't know, what do you think, like all the time. And when someone's quite new in their role, for example, you need to support them a bit more, don't you? And actually give them more direction. When it comes to feedback, absolutely. We all want to lead with how do you think it went? But the tone is so important, that actually offering up something that you think as well just shows that you actually care and been paying attention, not just, I don't know how you've been doing, so I'm just going to ask you to tell me.
Again, what I'm hearing is, and I think following on from Lucy's point there around, you need to have trust before you can coach, or can you coach and then build trust?
I think coaching helps you build trust. I think coaching helps you build psychological safety, which is a massive buzzword. But for me, what a coaching approach in leadership delivers for you is it helps people feel seen, feel heard, like their voice matters. I'm not just going to tell you what you need to do. I'm going to treat you like an individual, that I know you and I've got to know you. And actually, if we don't ask curious questions, how do we ever get to know anyone? So we need to start with that. So you can do it to build the trust and to build the psychological safety, because it's like makes the person realize that you care about them, that you want to know what they think. Like, I trust your judgment, Nic. Like, tell me, what do you think you'd like to do in this situation? It doesn't mean we're going to do that. I'm still the leader. I still make the final decision, and I will take responsibility for that. But at the end of the day, I really want to know what you think, because it might be better than what I'm thinking. You've got a whole new perspective. We talked that right at the top, right, about diversity of thought. And if we don't ask those questions, we'll never find out what people are truly capable of and help them unlock their potential, which has got to be one of our biggest responsibilities as leaders. So I think it helps build the trust, personally.
Do you think then, okay, but big question for you coming up, okay?
Oh, I'm ready.
Do you think every leader has the ability to coach? Yes, silence. That's a good question.
Yeah, because my immediate initial answer is yes, absolutely. But I want to consider it. And I think it's the word ability that I'm thinking about. And I think ability implies that it's something that you are good at or you're not. Like, I'm very able at, I've got that ability to do something. Whereas I think of it as more of a skill. I'm being those are semantics, right? This is getting really picky. But I think that anyone can learn the basic core fundamental skills and principles of coaching. It's not going to make you a coach. I don't think anyone can be a coach. I genuinely believe that. I think anyone can benefit, though, from the expertise of a coach. And I'm very passionate about as many people getting access to coaching as they can. But I also think everyone can benefit from some of the core skills of coaching. 100%.
Just want to go back to something you were saying, Nic, and I'm wondering if pace, in terms of how quickly we do things, comes into this. Because in terms of a leader wanting to be an expert, I wonder if there's sometimes they ask a question, they get a couple of bits of information, they automatically like A plus B equals C. Right, I've got my answer, I'm going to go with it. Do you think there's something about just slowing down, saying, okay, I've got these 2 bits of information, but actually I'm going to ask another question, or I'm going to wait, or I'm going to consider? Does pace come into it?
100%. I'm really glad you asked that question, because you can probably hear immediately, because I'm quite passionate about this. I talk really fast. I act really fast. I am a person of action, of movement. And coaching is about moving forwards. And that's what I love about it. It's so dynamic. It's about motivation. And, that comes from movere, right? To move. And that's what this is all about. So we can think like, let's go, 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 go. And actually, the benefit of forcing yourself to slow down, I think we hopefully all appreciate the power of just a deep breath in many situations, like a physical, for your like parasympathetic nervous system, etc. Like we take a breath and we slow things down. And coaching and taking that moment can just be a really powerful way to slow down. And we slow down in order to speed up.
Let's pause there for a moment. You're listening to the Leadership Lab by The Colourworks, where conversations become insight and insight becomes action.
And that is essential for me in this approach, because I think about all the challenges that organizations come to me with, because I work as an L&D consultant, I work as a leadership development like facilitator, etc. I'm hearing a lot of the challenges that workplaces are having and how they want their leaders to behave. And nobody's got any time. Everyone's like, we're so busy. I'm like, tell me someone who isn't. Like every leader I meet, every organization I talk to, nobody's got ample like time to kill. So for me, coaching is quite essential. We often like teach the symptoms, right? And like we go, right, let's do a time management course or a session on how to prioritize, how to delegate. Those are great. They have their place. But for me, what it comes back to is if we could coach better in the moment, then we might be able to actually better ascertain what are those priorities. Why is someone struggling? What support do they need so that they actually don't feel overwhelmed and overworked, etc. And we slow that down. And equally, it's about empowering people. So it already referenced the Cartman drama triangle. But if you become that rescuer, and that's the mistake I see a lot of new leaders make, they want to rescue, they want to know all the answers. And part of knowing the answers is I'll rescue you and I'll tell you what to do. Or quite often, because I used to do your job that you now do, even though I'm now your leader, I'll just do it for you. And that's what a lot of leaders fall into. And then they're overworked because they're doing like 2 different jobs at once. So by coaching, we actually empower people. That person I told you used to phone me and say, oh, I don't know, what do you think I should do, Nic? And if I carried on just giving them the answer, they're just going to phone me every day. And they did for a while till I twigged. I was like, this isn't working. I need a change of approach. And eventually they realized that instead of coming to me with a problem, they came to me with a challenge and a proposed solution that they just wanted to sense check. And I'd be like, yep, I trust you, go for it. So in the long run, it's an investment. It feels like it takes longer in the moment to go, oh, let's slow down and coach them through this. But it can be as quick as like 5 minutes. You can have a really impactful coaching conversation in like 5 minutes, even less. Could be one question can turn that around. So for me, it's an investment in buying you back some time by empowering your team to take ownership of certain things.
Challenge that I have for you, and remember this is all about challenge, is that to get you thinking differently is everyone really coachable? Because there's a great thing, you can teach people coaching and how leaders can be coaches, but actually is there not a step before that, which is teaching the workforce how to be coachable. I'm coming at this
Yes.
from a sport mindset because of my background and my
Nice.
experience, but
Yeah.
there's coaching and there's the ability to be coachable. So what's your stance on that? What's your thoughts on that?
It's an amazing question, and it's a big challenge. I think I absolutely wouldn't pretend that it can solve all of that, because I think it can be. You can't coach someone that doesn't want to be coached in the
I'll
first
give you
place.
I'll give you an example, right? In a previous role, I remember someone
Mm.
saying to me, "Stop coaching me, just tell me what to do."
Yes.
Like, I
Yep.
don't want to be coached here. I just want to be told what the decision is that we're making. And you hear a lot about coaching is a big part of leadership, but actually, I guess what you were saying earlier, situational, person dependent.
Yeah.
Like some
But
people don't want to be coached.
no, but I would argue back with you, Luke. I would challenge that back and say, how amazing is it that that person could be that direct with you and just say, can you cut that out and just tell me what I need to do? Like, you've built a really good relationship with that person, probably because you have coached them in the past, that they feel comfortable and safe to actually challenge you and say, can you not do that right now?
Mm.
That's
Luke,
what
was
I
it
need
just
from
that?
you right
Was
now
it
is
was
this.
it that kind of? Was it just a? It's Friday afternoon. Was it one time, or was it just in general? Just don't coach me. Was it?
Yeah, I don't want to go too deep into it, obviously, but yeah, no, it was
Yeah.
more. I think, Nick, you're right. It's like I probably had a natural coaching style with that individual, and at that point in time, they just wanted an answer. And maybe that's the art of leadership, isn't it? Having so many different tools in your toolkit. And as a leader, I probably chose the wrong tool for that situation. That's my reflection on it.
You'd still coach on it though. You'd go, okay, thanks for coming to me with this. What do you need from me right now? And that's a coaching question. Rather than just going in with and that's not an annoying question. That's we're going to get straight to the heart of this as quickly as possible. So, okay, thank you. What do you need from me? Today, Luke, I need you to put your coaching hat away and I just need you to make a decision and tell me what you need me to do, because I can't make this decision. And then we could go, oh, what's stopping you from making this decision? But you'd read the room, right? You'd be like, no, let's go. Maybe we can do that later. But for now, I now know really specifically what you need from me, and I'm going to provide that support. And that's what coaching is. It's, the core fundamentals we learn in coaching. It's about guidance, it's about support, and it's about challenge. And you can do that through support, and that support might look like, today I'm going to give you the answer.
On that, Nick. So I quite love this quite old school thing about managing by walking around, which I think is great, and I think you can do coaching conversations. Obviously, post COVID, so many of us are not together. Do you think, like, how does that work? Do you have to be more intentional with these kind of coaching questions when you're not physically working next to each other?
Think so. I think it's a really fair point, and it's partly why I think these coaching skills are more important than ever. And I think just because I cut my teeth in leadership in a remote leadership role, so I didn't see my team. I saw them once a month if I was lucky, because I had a massive region to get around. And I'm in the car like for 80% of my day. So I had to manage them remotely. And if I didn't use a coaching approach, that would have been impossible, because I had to rely on what they were telling me. They were the eyes on the ground. And I think we need to be led by others, and we need to build that trust in that, you can't, as a manager, not sitting next to people, even sitting next to them, you can't really know what someone's doing all the time, but you can't have eyes on what they're doing. You've got to trust what they're telling you. And I think that's where we've got to ask great quality questions to get the best answers and the best information that we need. And there are ways to do that, and there's other ways to do that. There's data that we can use to track people's performance, etc. But if we are relying on not being able to be sat next to someone and be a witness to how they're working and how they're showing up in conversations and stuff, we have to get our data from elsewhere. And a lot of that's going to come from building that trust, but also asking those great questions of your team, but also the people who interact with your team, and being curious about, this person in my team's helped you on this project. I'd love to know how you think that went. What did they do that was great? What could they have done a bit better?
That would imply like the motive behind it is actually huge. If I say like, what you just said was so empowering, I love what you've done, can you tell me more about it? It sounds so different from, so why have you done that? Or, it's the kind of the heart behind it is huge in this.
100%. And that's, go on, Luke.
I was just going to say, I think linguistics are so important when we talk about coaching. We probably do a whole other episode on language and coaching, because a question that I try to avoid is, unless you have real trust with people, is why? Because why to me
100%.
infers blame. So why did you do that? Why did you? And actually, if you've got trust with that person, then why questions are fine, aren't they? Why do you think like that? It's again like Lucy saying, tone and language. But I really want to take the conversation, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I went to Learning Technologies a couple of months ago, and listened to a speech about a huge organisation, which I won't name on this podcast, who have got rid of all of their human coaches, and replaced their human coaches with AI coaching. Okay, we talked about it previously. Okay. I was massively, this is ridiculous, what's this about? Like, I know the benefits of human coaching, but actually the person talking, who runs a huge nationwide operation, said in the flow of work, they haven't got time to pick up the phone or book a coaching conversation with someone. They needed to run around the back of the store quickly and ask their AI, which has been approved by their organization, what should I do in this situation? How can you help me? They said it's been transformational. So I'm intrigued to understand your take on where is the place for AI coaching? Where is not the place for AI coaching? That's a huge question, I know.
No, and I'm no like mega expert, but I'm really curious about it, of course, like a true coach. But like I said, I have this love-hate relationship with AI, and I think there's a real place for it. I've had to really challenge myself, because it's one of those existential threats, right? There are definitely places where it will say, AI coaching is going to replace you. You're not going to need a normal coach. And coaching in general in businesses is expensive, right, to access coaching. So I get it. I'm actually all for anything that democratizes access to coaching and makes it more affordable for as many people as possible. Genuinely, I am for that. So that situation, I'd be so curious about like the impact that's having. It sounds quite operational, in terms of like, that's just answering a question of like, what should I do right now? So that's not really coaching. That's just like, I'm asking it to tell me and it's giving me an answer, right? So there is an element of, you could call that coaching, but it's actually just troubleshooting, and it's actually just
quite
that
transactional,
kind of,
isn't it? It's quite
it
advice
is.
monster.
It's like a call center. Yeah, it is like transactional, exactly. And there's a massive place for that, so that they can access that information when they need it. I think there are those moments. So, well, what have I done? I did see a kind of experiment recently where they pipped an AI coach against a really high level coach, and got some other coaches to watch said experiment. It was an actor, so it was the same person that it coached, and it did the same scenario, but obviously it was still someone acting. It was very relevant to leadership, and it was only like a 10-minute session. And the feedback came through that the AI was good and the coaches were impressed, but the real coach did pip it, because they asked like questions that go just that little bit deeper. At this moment, the AI coaching, I think, will help with those surface level problems. And let's be honest, that's what people do want help with. I think there's room for both. There's a space for that. But then there's a space for that deeper level of behavioural change that will lead to more of a long-term impact and growth. So we can fix our problems in the short term. It's again like treating the symptoms. I'm not sure AI is there yet to kind of really deep dive why does that behavior keep showing up? Like if you've got massive confidence issues, you're going to go to AI because you worry about making decisions, and it will help you make decisions, but it's not going to help you tackle the root of where your confidence issues come from. Whereas a good coach should be able to do that for you. So I'm actually all for it. If it frees up budget in a way to then invest in coaching for the people who really need it, but also allows everyone to have access to some of those benefits. So yeah, I've got this like mixed relationship. That's where I am at the moment. I might end up somewhere different next week on it if I see something different, but yeah, that's where I'm coming in at the moment.
Great stuff. I've got about, this is a coaching session. I've got like 50 questions I want to ask you, but Lucy, any other things that you want to explore before we close off the experiment?
No, if there was one thing you want leaders to take away from this, what do you think that would be?
The simplest way that you can do this in the short term and have a really quick win is to just say to yourself, can I just ask one more question? So in any conversation, in any scenario, can I just ask one more question? What question would that be? That forces that kind of sense of curiosity to come out. So even if you're not naturally a curious person, or you don't naturally kind of have a coaching approach, just by pausing for those mere moments and saying, what one more question? How can I stay curious with just one more question? We're on 1 minute longer. That I think is a really great way to start.
Amazing. Thank you.
So at the start, you introduced your hypothesis, which was in a world where knowledge is everywhere and answers are easy to find, the leaders who create the most value aren't the ones with the best answers. They're the ones who ask the best questions. I'm intrigued, following, questions from Lucy, myself, like, what's your freshest thinking on that now? Like, where are you at with that hypothesis?
Yeah, I think I'm more galvanized than ever. I'm really passionate about this, but what you guys have helped me do, and it's something I'm working on, and on reflection is something I've done in previous organizations. I've just always forgotten to major on it, which I feel like I'm coming back to, and why this journey for me in this direction forward feels so right. It's that building a coaching culture. We can do all this in isolation. We can coach one person. I can train 20 leaders how to ask better coaching questions in a workshop. I do all of that. But if what I want to help organizations do, if they want to, is build a coaching culture. That was a buzzword probably 10 years ago, I would say, in our world, and everyone talked about coaching cultures. So few businesses get that right, and they really need to want to do it. So I know it's not for everyone, and I know it's not in every scenario or setting. I'm aware of the nuance, but I'm massively passionate that it could be an absolute game changer for so many people. It's just a bit of a rethink on how we run leadership development programs. I think if you just focus on these core skills of coaching, you bring in the other things, but this needs to be the heart of it for me, the heart and soul of it. So no, I've loved it. It's been really good to be challenged. Thank you, guys.
Hopefully we had feedback from our first guest that we can be even more challenging. So yeah,
yeah, definitely. I'd go with that. I would go with that. But I love being challenged. So I enjoy being put on the spot and thinking on my feet. Like that's what we do as facilitators all the time. So that for me is a great place to be. But I think you did challenge really well. I think I was just quite prepared for the type of challenges I might get, but you still managed to throw me a couple of curveballs, so credit to you.
Thank you so much. So, as we mentioned, part of the Leadership Lab is that we are trying to create our own Leadership Lab periodic table. So the idea is that every guest that we have on the show will bring one leadership behaviour that we will then add to our ever-growing periodic table, and that will become our library so that people can access different episodes based on the behaviours. So, based on everything we've talked about today, what leadership behavior are you going to be submitting to the periodic table?
Can I just say I love the periodic table thing because my
11-year-old son is obsessed.
It's so good. My 11-year-old loves like physics, science, everything, and he's obsessed with the periodic table. Like he's created his own periodic table. So he's going to love that I get to contribute to a periodic table. And I think I'm lucky that I get to go, second on this because you get a full range of stuff. The thing I've brought this back to is that one word, which is curiosity. And I just caveat it super quickly because obviously we've talked about asking other people great questions and staying curious just that little bit longer. And questions are a great way to do that, and questioning everything that's going on around you and challenging that. But I also want leaders, I know this will align with you guys, like to stay curious about themselves as well. So it's not just an outward thing, that's also an inward thing.
I love that. That's such a great summary for our conversation. Nic, it's been fascinating to talk to you and hear about your experience. I do have a lot of wine questions, but we'll probably have to
We can stop
We'll do that
recording for that. Who knows?
I'm curious about wine, basically. No, but no, it's been so great, and to end like that, to be curious about your people, but also curious about yourself is awesome. So thank you so much for your time and your insight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, as you were talking then, it reminded me of a really brilliant coaching question that someone told me once that I've definitely added to my coaching vocabulary, which is, I'm curious to know. Like, that. I'm curious to know more about, I'm curious to understand, I'm curious to see how you see this. You know, you could add anything onto the end of I'm curious to know. So it's going to come back into my practice. I'm curious to know what our listeners think about this episode. There we go.
So am I. Please let me know. I love that, and I love using that. Well, I'm curious. Tell me more about this. And then equally though, I always just go with the because I genuinely mean it. Like, I'd love to know more about that. Can you tell me? And that, you know, that's that. Again, people feel seen. They feel heard. They feel like you care, and it's because I do care. I'm not pretending. But if people struggle with that, you know, it's a really good, like, those sorts of questions are really handy to have in your back pocket, aren't they?
Absolutely. And so, Nic, tell us more as we wrap up this conversation. Maybe tell the listeners more where they could find out more about you, more about what you do, and just tell us, a little bit more about your business, because we're curious to know.
Ah, thanks. So yeah, my business is called Seeds Coaching. The name Seeds is a good one because I think we sow seeds, right, and like plant ideas. But I'm also massive, like, I've got an allotment. I love growing stuff from scratch. It's a hobby of mine as well. So that's a real passion. So Seeds Coaching. I am on LinkedIn, but it's like Nic Scott Learning on LinkedIn. Something along those lines. It's not the catchiest one. I've got a business page, but I'm still building it out. And LinkedIn is where I should probably hang out most. And I like being on LinkedIn a lot. But then I'm also on Instagram, and Instagram is probably where I share, that's seeds_coaching on Instagram. And that's where I share a bit more about like how I use coaching practice in my personal life. Actually, I share quite a lot of my personal story and journey on Instagram. And I challenge myself a lot in my personal life as well as my professional life. So I share more about those sort of physical challenges and things that I try and put myself through, and use that on myself and how I coach myself, I would say, on there. And then I've got a website, which is just seedscoaching.co.uk. So it's all nice and easy and aligned and branded nicely. And hopefully you've gathered from me today what I'm really passionate about, and that I'm not just obsessed with coaching skills. I am, but I love doing lots of other things. But there's a thread of that. So what I do pride myself on is always coaching my delegates. If I'm running sessions, I throw questions back to the room all the time. I teach people coaching skills without them even asking me to. It kind of happens through group coaching, and learning pod style stuff that supplements any sessions that I might run. So I'm all for empowering people basically to be able to learn those skills and find those answers for themselves. I don't want them relying on me. I want to set people off from their time with me, whatever that is, set up and ready to function without me. It's that idea of, I want to empower you to be able to do this moving forwards. And that's my gift to them. And I love it. So yeah, there's loads of stuff I could talk about all day, but I won't. I'm sure it comes through loud and clear.
I'm going to ask you, I'm curious to know, what's the best thing you've ever grown in your allotment?
Oh my goodness. The easiest thing and the best thing as bang for your buck is potatoes. Like, I can't tell you how easy it is to grow your own potatoes, and you will not believe me until you've done it, like how much better a homegrown potato tastes compared to a potato from the supermarket. You would think there's not much in it. And I annoy my allotment neighbours because I'm quite a neglectful allotment owner because, as you know, I run a business and I have 3 small children. Everyone else on the allotment is retired. So I'm one of the only young ones, and I'm 41 up there. But I grow great potatoes, and they'll be like, oh, I've had blight and I've had this, and I neglect them thoroughly. But I'm confident that I think it's in my blood. My grandpop used to grow lots of potatoes, and I think I and my mum and my dad have taught me what they did. And it's just one of those things where I've, like, a family that kind of needed to grow its own food to sustain itself, like in the past. So I think it's in my blood that I can grow great potatoes. But oh my God, it's so easy. And you can do it in the garden. You just need like a bucket or a big container, like plastic flexi tub. People grow them in tyres. So you'd have a tyre and you put them in. Like, I could talk about it all day, but it is one of the easiest things to grow. It's probably a bit late now to start this season. Wherever we are recording in June, but yeah, get potatoes in the ground and you won't regret it. One potato turns into 20, and
you can even
amazing.
make vodka out of potatoes.
You actually can.
Just a circular conversation.
It has a slightly creamier texture, a potato-based vodka, in my experience, rather than a grain-based one, which is a bit rough and ready. A potato-based vodka, a bit creamier.
I'm okay with that.
There we go.
There we go. Lucy, final thoughts from you on the conversation?
I've loved it. I think it's been great. I'm really excited to actually check out your Instagram, because I think that's cool to be able to relate your coaching not just to business but personal. I think that's really intriguing. So yeah, I've loved it, and great to meet you, Nic.
Likewise, Lucy. Really great.
So thank you ever so much, Nic Scott from Seeds Coaching, for joining us today on the Leadership Lab podcast. And yeah, we hope you've gathered and gained something from it yourself. And we hope that the listeners at home have taken something away from the conversation today. So thank you ever so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for spending time with us in the Leadership Lab. We hope you're leaving with one insight, one question, or one experiment to try in your own leadership practice. The Leadership Lab is brought to you by the Colourworks, helping people, teams, and organisations work better together. See you next time, back in the lab.